Fornhan.Ponsan, enroll now and become part of the story. Next week is the Johan Aopon, so we will be going over what they used during that. There are two types of fights that can be done: direct fights and exhibition fights. Naturally, safety first. So the real fight cannot include big magic. You cannot just create a no-harm zone out of thin air thanks to the power of magic. So these fights against people will need to be held in a way where there's no chance of big injuries. This will mean they will mostly rely on martial arts or sword fighting techniques, but that is better than being realistic and chopping off someone's hand. For that will be all kinds of Fipon Gori be used. That are simple wooden replicas of real weapons. Everyone has their own way of fighting, and in cases where they use an innate weapon of their body like claws, will they wear things to blunten that weapon. But what type of weapon they use is up to them, and there will be all kinds of styles, with the exception being long-range weapon of course. While this might seem like some tradition we keep up, is there a real use to these fights, as fighting magical creatures will be a real issue that you will be encountering. And it may be easy to say to just use a gun, but most often than not will that not work. Sure, with overwhelming firepower would you be able to win any fight, but for the case we train for, you would be in situations where magic weapons will be far more reliable. Magic is a great tool to invalidate simple strategies, and some magical creatures won't even be affected by small firearms due to them having tough hides or not possessing a physical body to hit. So do not see this as some form of tradition being kept up. This is as serious as it was hundreds of years ago. Being a fight without magic, does this also mean the playing field will be heavily leveled? Us humans who have no magic suddenly are on equal footing to magical creatures that can no longer rely on their magic. They naturally train for this as well. It is not as if humans would be helpless if magic became a part of this. The art of sealing a magical creature is a big part of what humans learn for fighting magical creatures. And that means magical creatures will need to learn how to deal with fighting an opponent that learns to shut down their key advantage. Also, the humans have the option of using other tools to fight that magical creatures could only get their hands on through humans, due to them being unable to make spell circles. Though that knowledge could also equally be abused by them. One of the tricks they learned was to create tools of their own magic, so that even if they are sealed, are they capable of using magic. And it is far more difficult to seal an object wielded by someone than a person. Mostly in those cases would the human need to find a way to break the tool instead. On the other side do we naturally also have a part that is designed to show off the magic, as it is the core identity of magicians. Otherwise would we be nothing more than a beast tamer. As we cannot have people attack each other with magic, is this instead of a fight an exhibition of your skills, which then gets compared by judges. How this part plays out is varied, as there are many ways of showcasing your magic understanding. For one part is magic the creation of tools, but with that also the creative problem solving that is paired with it. This is naturally something that only humans can take part in, as magical creatures would not be able to make tools. They still can contribute, but they rarely would take part in this, as there simply isn't a big point in that. Tools then can be checked for all kinds of variables. The stability of the tool is a big part, and so can they be strength tested against outside forces. Usually would this be a test in where you intentionally try to break the tool by exploiting weaknesses in the power lines or the words used, but can also be a raw strength test to see how much it can on an absolute scale withstand. But tools that are able to withstand a huge amount of magic are one of two types. Either they are generally solidly made with little imperfections, in which case they would break at the material limit of the tool, or the other would be a spell circle that was specifically designed for the purpose of withstanding magic. These are most helpful for talismans, for sealing, as the talisman itself has the low capability of withstanding magic regardless of the material used due to its thin nature. These spell circles will have glaring weaknesses, but only at points that you would never expect them to meet. But if it is flawed, can that flaw be abused? And so then can magical creatures learn spell circle just for the purpose of using their own magic more effectively on them than just full power discharging, making a cat and mouse game. But what can be tested is efficiency, either by spell circles being a plain out better version of a pre-existing one with same functionality in a less complex way without weakening it at other points. But what is also possible is a show fight. Due to the normal fights not allowing magic use, do many of the aspects learned get wasted, so individuals that are sure in their abilities can have a show fight, in which they can use real weapons and magic. These fights will need to be fully choreographed by them personally, and they have to make sure that they don't sustain any injuries. These show fights are completely unbound, and so are they allowed to do things that can be lethal if done wrong. As this is not a real fight, it is not about winners and losers. They can be solo performers, but those hardly succeed. So will a human and magical creature need to fight together for this? This is something extremely dangerous. So the pairs that do find together will have to work together for years. This will bring with it a natural time constraint, as there are only so many years you have before you can take part in the Johan Aopon. Theoretically, you could take part in it regardless of the year you are in, but we teachers will only allow people to take part in that are impressing us bigly in their abilities, and for that we need to have time to see your abilities, which makes contestants those in the last years most of the time. Those people are around 22 to 25, and now considering that those who find a partner will be doing this mostly only after 4 years earliest, would that mean you need to find a magical creature in your first year of school, that you immediately know you can work together for the rest of your life. This is not something that happens every day, or rather those who do this are those that know magical creatures since childhood. They are not called life partners for nothing. Depending on gender, race and preferences matching up, is marriage not something unheard of between those. That is the trust level needed we are talking about here. On top of that, will you still need to train like hell to master the use of magic tools and the fight against someone else in a real scenario, as it can be easily snuffed out if someone knows how to fight in a real fight over someone putting up a show. And this is also collaborative, so both sides need to do their part, or it will not count regardless of how well one side does. And what can be shown in these fights are then all kinds of things. For one example, can you show the act of sealing a real opponent? Or for someone like Professor Newlake, it would be the act of fighting a dragon and winning against an opponent that will take on average 10 to 15 people to subdue. But she is the only person in history to do anything this impressive successfully. Others either died, got crippled, or lack any understanding of what a real fight would be like. She hasn't gotten the title of Horoyo by the dragons for nothing. There are then even more than just 1 versus 1 fights in some cases, that usually also end in some form of injury, that the contestants will simply have to tough through, if they want to win, as it is simply unrealistic to have 2 pairs fight in a choreography that imitates a real fight and be able to still avoid every single injury. These fights then show off the ability to fight with a magical creature, and in this case will the pairs be scored individually, not directly compared, but it is impossible to have no bias when having to score 2 groups that fought each other. But the ultimate end goal is to give an opportunity to show off magic abilities and the ability to work with a magical creature. All of this will take place in the forest that the school is built next to. As you are told not to go into the forest, will it be time for some explanation. The forest the school was built in is a sanctuary. As such does it have all kinds of magic properties. For a normal human is it almost impossible to find their way through it, even if you follow extremely strict rules to walk through it. Time and space lose all meaning inside it, and all of that serves towards the goal of having the arena in the middle be cut off. We won't be going into detail over it, but that arena is made with all kinds of magic weaved into the ground. It is a perfect place to fight on equal grounds. While inside the arena is it easily to shut down any and all magic, so even if someone had the idea to use magic when they aren't supposed to, will that be impossible. This also allows to ensure that the viewers are out of harm's way regardless of what is happening. This world is made by you. Comment on what should be part of it, or maybe there's already a class for that. I also have to wonder what the off class might be up to right now.